Hi, I'm here in one of my edible meadow creations. This was created from seed and it's a designed seed mix where I combined over 30 different edible species found in meadows from around the world. And we're really in a lucky time at the moment where we've got thousands of edible plants available to us. I saw this as an opportunity to create a seed mix of plants found in meadows, but really selecting them from around the world which are good for eating. So actually what we find is many of the plants we grow in our gardens anyway are found in meadow habitats. So like the fennel, which fennel is a really good leaf to be creating tea from, or you can eat in salads. What I like to do with it is mix it in with any Chinese inspired dishes. The edible meadow is how I've created it, is I've done a layering in that there's a ground cover, a sort of middle layer or companion layer, and then there's an emergent layer. So about 40% of the mix is plants like this Bellis perennis in flower at the moment, which is low growing, tolerates some shade and spreads across the ground. And this sorrel, which is a very good salad crop. The daisies, you can also eat the flowers of them and the leaves in salads. And then there's this companion layer or middle layer, which consists of clump forming perennials. So like the Italian bistro, which is a really good perennial vegetable and has beautiful flowers, a bit like borage, but it's not as dominant as borage is, and that's a perennial, so it carries on growing. We've also got the bistro, that is a beautiful native wildflower found in meadows, and that produces an edible leaf, what used to be quite commonly eaten here in the UK. It can be cooked as a pot herb, or the young leaves can be used in salads. Then we have the emergent layer, which is a lower percentage of the mix, around 10%, and that consists of tall plants what emerge out of the tapestry of plants underneath, and that's things like the fennel or the Korean angelica. So those are tall emergent plants that don't shade out too much underneath, and they're only planted in a low percentage so that they don't dominate the planting. So if we look at fennel, that has tall stalks with feathery leaves, which allows other plants to grow underneath it. And when you're designing one of these mixes, you have to be considering the ecological compatibility of the plants, because there's sort of a sociability scale of plants. You get things like borage, which is a ruderal, and that grows up and it's got a boom and bust life cycle. It quickly grows, produces large leaves that shade out plants underneath, and that's quite a dominant, not a very sociable plant. Whereas when we look at the fennel, that's actually quite a sociable plant. It's found in meadows and that grows up tall and doesn't shade too much of the plants underneath. However, you have to be careful with the fennel because it does self-seed, so it requires some management. So the concept behind this edible meadow is really looking at how we can create larger ecological plantings at low cost, because it's created from seed, ideally with an addition of some potted plants. And then the maintenance, the predominant maintenance, is a once a year cutback with some weeding in between. So it's quite a low maintenance planting, but then with the huge range of edible plants available to us today, we can actually have really good harvests. So this has salad crops, leaf crops, root crops. So one of the really interesting ones for me is actually the Egyptian walking onion. That is a perennial onion that produces a spring onion like leaf, and then on top of the leaves it produces these little bulblets, that the bulblets can be eaten a bit like capers, but then what they do is they fall over and once they touch the ground, that can reshoot and produce another plant. So from one onion, you can get an onion plant. You can get a small onion bulb, a bit like a shallot, spring onion leaves, and then small caper-like onions. And this is actually doing really well in the high competition of this planting, because whatever I design into this mix needs to be able to compete with all the other plants in between them. By doing this sort of very dense plant community type design, there's very little opportunity for weeds to get in. So that adds into this low maintenance method. So in the end result, we've got a low maintenance planting, which is ecologically diverse for wildlife, but it also produces crops and beauty for people. And this is the second year of my trials in these edible meadows, and they're doing incredible so far. So yeah, keep tuned and I'll carry on sharing content on these plantings.